We've been trying to keep track of this tsunami as it affects all of the islands. Not a terribly easy thing to do because communication is difficult from all of the county civil defense agencies, from state civil defense to the counties and thence to the news media. We do know that so far apparently there has been no damage, no loss of life, no injury, and that's what the early warning system is all about. Back in 1960 and earlier than that in 1946, Hilo on the Big Island was hit with terribly destructive tsunamis. A lot of people lost their lives. In those days, there was no early warning system. There were no sensors out in the ocean to tell us for sure that a tsunami was on the way here and to warn people to evacuate in time. And that's what we had today.
I'm on a house, or in a house, located on Hill, which overlooks Hilo Harbor, and I have a great view of Hilo Harbor right now, and everything looks calm in Hilo Bay, I should say. And it's an area that County Civil Defense describes as very susceptible to tsunamis. And as Bob Seavey mentioned, this island is very familiar with tidal waves, the worst one being on April 1st, 1946. And that tidal wave was generated by an earthquake in the Aleutian Islands. Earlier this afternoon, police evacuated Hilo's low-lying areas as well as all of the low-lying areas across the Big Island. The city, at least the downtown area, looks like a ghost town. Police have it sealed off. Some windows were taped up, expecting some wave action. I also saw one appliance dealer clearing out his inventory from the store, taking some precautions there.
Let's go to Elisa Yadao on Maui.
Good evening, Bob and Linda. This is indeed Elisa. I'm with Tom Tanner here on Maui. We are in the Pu'uona area of Wailuku, overlooking Kahului Harbor, which is remarkably calm. The water level has receded and it's continuing to drop. Maui County residents and tourists here are ready for any tsunami action. Low-lying areas on Maui County's 3 islands, Maui, Molokai, and Lanai, have been evacuated. The airport's been closed and evacuated, and the USS Independence that was in harbor here has been moved out to sea. There are 10 emergency centers here for people who have been evacuated from their homes. It's very quiet here, and everyone is just waiting, as they are on other islands, for something to happen. Maui Mayor Hannibal Tavares has been on the radio reminding people that they are not to return to low-lying areas until the all-clear siren is sounded, and that has not happened.
We now have a phoner from Stacy Sakamoto, who is our reporter on the island of Kauai. Stacy?
Here on Kauai, all low-lying areas were evacuated about 2 hours ago. That included many major beachfront hotels. The town of Lihue, however, is considered a safe area, so residents there are fine. I'm in Hanamalu now on the east shore of the island. Traffic here has backed up quite a ways, and that's because authorities have closed a portion of Kuhio Highway, which is the road that follows the east shore around the island. A number of emergency shelters have been set up, and many residents here headed for higher ground. But most not only to get to a safer place, but to get a better view of the coast. There are reports of some unusual wave action and receding waters, but that's about it from Kauai.
The most serious evacuation problems this afternoon were on Maui, where all of the Ka'anapali visitor area was evacuated for higher ground. Police also had a hard time convincing people to leave the shoreline in Lahaina, with more curious people arriving after the area was closed. There were also numerous reports of people returning to low-lying areas before the all-clear was sounded. As on the other islands, water levels dropped significantly in many locations on the Big Island earlier this evening, but the big destructive waves failed to materialize. And from the air, it was hard to detect anything unusual in Hilo Harbor. Nonetheless, all of Lower Hilo was evacuated, and the people who live and work there did as they were asked because they remember what happened to Hilo in the past.
The neighbor islands had braced for a big wave, but it was a ripple. The tsunami warning generated a lot of excitement, though. Big Island residents recalled the devastation of the big one that heavily damaged Hilo in 1960, and they were especially anxious. No trouble in Hilo today. Shops closed along the bayfront, and police closed Waipio Valley Road as a precaution. Elisa Yadao was on Maui today, and she has this report.
The change in Kahului Harbor was noticeable, but only to the trained eye. The calm waters receded in the late afternoon and early evening, but the wave action never did pick up. The warnings from civil defense and police were taken seriously. Low-lying areas were evacuated, the airport shut down, traffic came to a virtual standstill. Up at Civil Defense headquarters, workers kept a close watch on the situation, and Maui Mayor Hannibal Tavares went on the radio often, urging Maui folks to keep clear of danger areas until there was no more threat. Shortly after 7:30, the all-clear was given. You could almost hear the collective sigh of relief.
Stacy Sakamoto and cameraman Bob Campbell were on Kauai, where the first neighbor island ocean level changes were reported, and they have just returned from the Garden Island with this report.
Many Kauai residents headed for higher ground, not only to get to a safer place, but to find a better view of the coast. All low-lying areas were cleared, and that included parts of Hilo Highway, which is basically the only route around much of the island. Many found it impossible to get from Lihui to Kapa'a, about 9 miles away. Traffic backed up quickly. When there was no sign of a wave by late afternoon, residents breathed a sigh of relief.
Speaking for myself, I have to say I was very scared. Remembering Hurricane Eva, and when the sirens went on, I was scared.
By early evening, it was clear why everyone was still out.
The excitement is because it's been 26 years, and so you don't see a tidal wave every day.
Why are they out here?
Why not? Nothing else to do.
Other Kauai residents and some visitors ended up at emergency shelters around the island. Some were passengers aboard the cruise ship SS Constitution, which left Nauwiliwili Harbor to ride out the wave.
And I was up at the lighthouse when I heard the news, and I tried to get back to the ship, but before I got here, the ship pulled out and left me stuck.
Kauai civil defense officials say they were as prepared today as they were for Hurricane Eva, which caused millions of dollars in damage. Kauai civil defense officials gave the all-clear sign at about 7:35, a little after Oahu did. They wanted to make sure that when the signal came, Kauai residents would not cause a huge traffic jam.
Unfortunately, we have 45,000 resident people and possibly about 30,000 cars.
On the neighbor islands today, it took a total team effort between civil defense officials, firefighters, and police officers to get everyone out of harm's way. Officials say sending out the tsunami warning before most of the people left their homes eliminated some of the problems. Manolo Morales reports.
Big Island Civil Defense Chief Harry Kim says that the first tsunami warning was sent out by 5:30 in the morning. And getting that early jump was pivotal in evacuating more than 30,000 people by 9:30. He says there were minor traffic tie-ups on different parts of the island, but getting the word out before residents left for work and school kept a lot of them off the roadways. Those that were on the road got some help. Police roadblocks diverted the traffic to keep everyone from moving and safe. For some, getting themselves out was only half the battle. Couches, fax machines, and other office supplies were also moved out of the danger zones.
We're emptying out the Chamber of Commerce. My wife, Nancy Williams, is the executive director there, and we've had help from everybody. Everybody's just come down and offered help. Everybody's helping out, and we really appreciate that. Everybody's pulling together.
Tsunami researchers from Hilo stood atop the Bayshore Towers, which provided a vantage point allowing them to shoot pictures that could be helpful in the next tsunami.
This is important to help predict how the next one will be, because that's what the evacuation maps, the inundation zoning is based on.
On the Kona side, boats rushed out of Honokohau Harbor for safety's sake. Residents say the only time the harbor looks like this is during the major fishing tournaments.
Low-lying area should evacuate immediately. We will be closing the road shortly.
The Garden Isle also had some minor traffic problems. Kauai civil defense officials say about 2,000 people, many of them tourists, were evacuated to 12 shelters in the island. Several hundred of them were in Kapa'a Elementary School's cafeteria. Many stood outside hoping to catch a glimpse of the big waves that never arrived. Over on Maui, tour helicopters teamed up with civil defense officials as they combed the beaches to make sure they were empty. Observers say some surfers chose to ignore the warnings, hoping to catch the ride of their lives. Thankfully, those waves never came.
Neighbor islands saw much of the same preparation this morning. The tsunami were reported as less than 20 inches on the Big Island and even smaller on Kauai. Those in low-lying areas were evacuated. There was a lot of traffic slowdown, people packing up possessions to take to higher ground. Many ended up here at Kapa'a High School to wait out the warning period. Others took to the hills above the blue waters, watching for the disaster that never happened. And everyone was grateful to hear the all clear from civil defense officials.